Welcome back, everyone, to another great edition of the Broker to Broker podcast. My name is Mark Summers. I am the president of AIM. Today, I'm going to be interviewing someone who I've played golf with and kicked his rear end. I'm just kidding, Casey. He's a nice player, but I've known him for a few years, ever pretty much since the inception of AIM. I got to know him. We've chatted on the phone. We've talked about different deals. So I'm really excited about this today because I know what he's about, and I think everyone else is going to love what he's about. And many of you already know him. So today I'm going to be interviewing the broker owner of Finland Home Loans, Casey Finn. Casey, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, man, my pleasure. No, this is going to be fun. Just like I said, we have a we'll call it a personal relationship here. I've been to Top Golf with you a few times, talked to you on the phone a few times about some lovely realtors in our area and whatnot, and it's always been good. So, hey, tell everyone here a little bit about your background. How did you get into this industry? I know you made some changes here recently, so hit us all with it.
Yeah, that's kind of probably kind of a unique story. I have been in a lot of different industries, sales related, customer service related since really I was 16. When I was 16, my first job was at Cherry Creek Golf Club as a wedding server. And people always used to tell me, even at 16, that I had a lot of poise. I used to take care of the bride and groom, and I loved it. I took a lot of pride in understanding, even as a 16-year-old, that was important. Like that was their special day, and it was important for me to make sure that they had a good time. And that sort of attitude, kind of continued to develop as I worked there, as I went through. I went to Michigan State for hospitality business school. So because I really loved being associated with country clubs and being in that atmosphere, I didn't end up going through with that. I left Michigan State because I just, I couldn't sink my teeth into anything that I truly saw myself doing in the future. And that's kind of when I got into, my brother-in-law owned a cell phone shop at the time. So I got into that. And that was a good mix for me. I've always been kind of a tech savvy person, jumping into retail sales and kind of learning the ropes with that and transitioning sort of, things I had learned in my youth, to that aspect as well, and did pretty well there. I went from his company to work for a bigger company, and I worked there for a few years. And then I ended up following, it's sort of funny how, me and some of my friends that were in the retail environment at Verizon, we sort of all followed each other to like the next best sales gig. So I ended up working for MSC Industrial Supply in telesales in Southfield, and I went from selling cell phones to selling cutting tools to machine shops over the phone. So, but I actually enjoyed that. Again, it's kind of a mix of science and tech and sales, and ended up going from there to from a telesales position, moved to South Carolina to work in the field. They gave me the Boeing account. It was a big deal. Moved my family, just my wife at the time, across the country to Charleston. But it was a chance to kind of do something new and exciting. And who knows? Me and my wife always kind of laugh because we sort of thrive in chaos. So we just kind of like to do. We kind of just do what comes. We're kind of impulsive. We just kind of do what we think sounds good at the time, and we just kind of go for things. So, yeah, I moved to South Carolina, was driving around doing that for a while. And you quickly realize that working in like that corporate environment, that it becomes about, and even on their like mission statement, it's about taking care of their shareholders. And when you're in this environment where the shareholders come before the client relationships, you start to like realize that quickly. And a lot of the things that I was doing just became about checking the box. It went so far as to say they were like they built out their own platform on Salesforce, and they were essentially like telling us what to say with every sales call that we made on a client. It started to feel so routine, and then you get calls from your bosses. Why didn't you check this box? Why didn't you check this box? You're supposed to talk about fasteners today. Like, did you talk about fasteners? What was your, it's like, no, he asked about gloves when we talked about safety. You know, it's like, I don't know. And
Right.
so I started to give my bosses a lot of pushback and started to get into some trouble, and they were about to fire me. So I quit. You know,
Love the honesty.
even when they brought me on board, they said they hired me because I was cocky. um, when I before I took my promotion into the field, that's basically why he hired me, because I kind of had an edge. And um, you know, and that edge was just that feeling that I knew how to build better relationships than most people. You know, I genuinely cared about getting to know my clients. I genuinely cared about their well-being and their business's well-being, and you know, that came before really anything else. So my wife at the time, she just happened to fall into a mortgage processing position at a broker in South Carolina, and she had been there basically since the time that we moved there, and was like, why don't you get your mortgage license? I remember specifically sitting on the side of a road. I had a customer that was basically a golf course, and I would go into like their maintenance shop and, you know, sell them tools, whatever they needed. um, and I was sitting outside on the road in my car, and I was just like talking. I just called my wife because I was like miserable, and I just, you know, it just felt, I was just bored with it, and it just, you know, it felt dead to me. So honestly, when she said it, it resonated, because it that was like sort of the perfect combination of, I can get away from this, you know, just selling, you know, retail style selling, where it's just you're trying to sell items, you're pitching sales, you're trying to push certain product and things like that, and truly do something where I could be an advisor and actually make an impact in people's lives. And so yeah, I basically read some books, studied up for a few months, passed my test in the first try, passed a national test in the first try. At the time, this was 2017. Yeah, so at the time, South Carolina required a state test, which was like twice as hard as the national exam.
I
And
did
I
not know
failed
that.
that twice. It didn't pass my third time. I had to drive from Myrtle Beach, where we were living at the time, to Charleston, like just a 2 hour drive each time. And then we moved away from South Carolina. So, so that worked out well. So, yeah, so we ended up having our first, our youngest or our oldest son, Lincoln, at the end of 2016. And then that was kind of around the time where I was transitioning and working on getting my license. So after I ended up getting my license, we decided to sell our house and move back to Michigan, to start my own brokerage, really. So, you know, I had reached out to some contacts in Michigan. I interviewed with some people in South Carolina, and you know, it was like, I knowing what I'm capable of personally, and then you have people that are like, yeah, we don't really have time for a new guy, or we don't really, you know. So it's like no one would give me a chance. And of course, like Quicken wanted to hire me. You know, they were chomping at the bit. But they were like, yeah, you start off for your first 6 months working 8 to 8:30. You park in a garage 2 miles away and have to shuttle. And I'm just like, I have a new son. Like, there's no way that I want that quality of life. And like I said, I interviewed with some smaller shops, and no one was really willing to give me an opportunity as someone new to the industry. So I just luckily my wife was a processor at the time, so she knew how to get a loan from A to Z. You know, so I just kind of you know, we just kind of went for it. Started our own brokerage, and my first loan that I closed was as a broker owner, because I actually didn't even close a loan when I was in South Carolina. I sort of learned the ropes a little bit.
So
But
you're the first loan you ever closed was when you were the owner of the company.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
And
That's
for a
impressive.
while, I had never met anybody that was kind of in the same scenario. But I think Tristan Purcell mentioned that he has a similar story. So I'm looking forward to seeing him at Fuse and having a beer about that.
So now you're in Michigan. You start your own company. How long has that company been around?
So officially licensed in July of 2017.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I
So
know I see a lot of your stuff around, so I know you're doing pretty well here. And I think a lot of that it probably has to deal with the next topic we're going to go into. And I love this because I always feel like we have the ability to have we have the same resources, we have the same technology, or have the ability to get it. We have the same lenders. We all do, So now it's going to be what differentiates you, your philosophy, and that's what I want to talk to you about today is your sales philosophy. So tell me, what is your overall sales philosophy?
it's definitely kind of a hodgepodge of different things that I've picked up over the years. I love, I'm a sponge. Like I love learning different things from different books, from different people. The broker community has, been absolutely phenomenal, and that's a huge attribution to, where I'm at today. Just being able to see how these people approach different topics and learn from the most successful, people in the industry, and um, which is just it's just such an amazing value just being part of this community. To have like access to people like Todd Bitter and Skylar Welch and Brendan McKay, these just juggernauts who are just killing it out there, and they're just like, oh yeah, you need 15 minutes, yeah, let's set some time aside and then I'll talk to you about what I'm doing. I mean, like that's anyways.
I mean, I've said it before. If you've listened to these podcasts, that's my favorite thing about this whole association is the community itself and how we're willing to give each other a helping hand, whether you're a mile down the road or, 1,000 miles across the country.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I feel like my camera just, oh, there we go. Okay. I feel like I was moving around too much. My autofocus couldn't keep track of me there.
No,
Uh,
no worries. You still look great.
yeah, I am half Italian. So like I still move around a lot when I talk. It's hard for me to sit still and like, I'm like, hey, all right. Um,
All right. So give me one of your philosophies. If you have a hodgepodge of them, give me
I would
one that
say
you
the
kind of
biggest,
rely on.
the most life altering thing was the golden circle from Simon Sinek. Back, I mean, gosh, I was probably 20 or 21 when I learned that. And I immediately started teaching it to the staff there at Verizon. And I know Rene Rodriguez talks about this at Amplify as well. Uh, I haven't been to an Amplify yet, but I've seen it on his whiteboards and his video, so I know for a fact that he does.
Well,
Which
explain
is
it to
really,
us because explain it to us just a bit
yeah,
because I don't know
no,
what it is.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, so start with why. It is basically um, understanding what you do and then how you portray that to consumers. So the golden circle essentially is the outer circle is what, the middle circle is how, and the inner circle is why. And basically, he explains it as most companies, they sell from outside in, which is they know what they sell, they know how they do it, and then in some back end portion on a mission statement, they know why they're doing what they're doing. His big comparison is from Dell to Apple. So, because Dell, they're always just selling their technology. Dell is a computer company. They make computers. That's what they do. And that's when you talk about Dell, like that's okay, Dell makes computers. That's what they do. And so they're always just throwing their computers at you. You don't really, nobody really identifies, oh, I'm a Dell person. Like nobody like identifies with that because that doesn't mean anything. When you talk about Apple, from the other hand, like think about Apple's marketing with the music, with the people having a good time, with the certain types of people in their commercials. It's people identify as an Apple person because of the culture that they put out, because they start with why, they start with who they are as a company, and they don't just say like, oh yeah, we make beautiful computers. It's no, it's this is the culture that we've created. Oh, and also we make beautiful computers, and this is how we do things. So it's putting that culture part first, and coming selling from a place of why you do what you do, versus just, I'm a mortgage broker, I sell mortgage products, I have very low rates, I do everything from FHA to so it's not that. It's hey, my slogan, that I just kind of coined for my company is, no pitch, no pressure, just dollars and cents. SENSE, not CENTS. Um, because that's just kind of where I come from. It's has nothing to do with closing a deal. It has nothing to do with trying to get a client to commit. it has everything to do with making sure that person understands the investment, making sure that person knows that they're in good hands for for the investment that they're making. And obviously, it's a stressful thing, and it's understanding that and taking a genuine interest in a major event in somebody's life when they're purchasing a home. Um, so yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
No, it's pretty darn good. Trust me.
yeah.
You're good there.
Hey, you said go in depth, so I'm trying here.
Oh, I just hit my banner. So no. Okay. So you have this philosophy here, which is great. I love it. I love the comparison to, the Dell and Apple, because it does make sense, because you hear people say, oh, I'm an Apple person. You never hear anyone say I'm a Dell person or I'm a Droid, really. But okay. So you have this philosophy now. Now, how do you turn this into turning it into a potential lead, into a client, and then a referral?
Um, well, there's a good and bad story with that too. So I know we've talked about a certain realtor in the area that I absolutely had a terrible experience with, and that's because I sort of abandoned I was more of a novice in the business at the time, and I sort of abandoned my values and my philosophy when I started doing some marketing with her, because um, I sort of felt like I wasn't too keen on how she did business, and some of the things that she would say and things that she would do, I sort of, just kind of laughed off and just kind of played off. And because she was such a high producer, that I only saw the dollar signs at the end of it. And we ended up just having just a awful falling out. Like, the harshest words you can imagine were exchanged. Not from my end, because I didn't really, that's not the type of person I am, but it was, it really just blew up, and it shook me for a good month or two to say, like, man, like, what am I doing here? Like, I need to figure this out as far as how I need to build these relationships. And so for a while, I really didn't focus on, you know, getting, very deep realtor relationships until I finally, towards the end of that year. So this would have been the end of like 2019. I finally sort of started to try to pick up a new relationship. And this time I was very much more culture focused. And I knew that I didn't want to work with anyone that I couldn't jive with, that I couldn't be friends with outside of just our business relationship. Because at that point, again, just like how I would work with my clients, like the monetary value at the end of it doesn't matter if you don't like working with that person.
Right. Right.
And so I ended up connecting with somebody who has I think we kind of both knew instantly that we just were going to get along really well, really well. We have very similar values, and we've become like great friends over the past year and a half. And, we're still working together to this day. And I the other thing too is I really trust her. She's an amazing realtor, and it's great because, like, every time we talk, we have a good call about once a week, and it's some of it's about business, but most of it is just about just shooting the shit and just kind of joking around. And so I really love that part of our relationship. And basically, realtors that when I'm looking for a new realtor relationship in like a different area or something like that, that's the first thing I look for, is like, who do I really get along with, who can I really see myself enjoying working with, and someone that I want to just grow with and grow together.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big thing when dealing with lenders, vendors, realtors, processors, other originators. You just don't want processors. You just don't want realtors. You want realtor partners. I think once
Yep.
you throw that partner word on the end of everything within reason that you do, your life becomes easier, right? You're not so
Yeah.
focused on the dollar and cents, and you get to build relationships. So I
Yep.
couldn't agree more with you on that one. I'm glad you found someone that you can do that with. Sounds like a love
Yeah.
story, but it's not.
Almost, it's funny you should say that, because I hadn't talked to her in probably about 10 days, and I called her up a few days ago, and she was like, "Hey, stranger." And she's like, "You know what? I was gonna send." She's like a little bit older, so um, it's not something that's like on the wife's radar in terms of like, how much time are you spending with this lady? But it's funny because she was like, I was going to send you like a heart and kisses saying like, hey, I miss you. But I didn't know like how that would, if we were at that level or like how that would rub your wife the wrong way. And we just like laughed about it because I was like, no, you could have sent it. Like, we get it. We're, we have that kind of relationship. So it's fun.
That's awesome.
But
So, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say like, I have that, I'm kind of cutthroat in that way with anybody that I do business with nowadays. If I pick up that inkling where it's just they want to close a deal versus even finding out who I am and what I'm about, what my company is about, I'm just like, forget it.
Right.
And it's funny because I used to actually take Quicken's calls, a couple of years ago, and I used to just talk to them about like, you guys don't even understand what brokers are about. You keep telling me about all of your benefits, all your features and benefits, but you haven't asked me one question about my business. You haven't asked me one question about why I support AIM or why I believe in that. And it's like that's like that perfect example of them just trying to drive business versus actually caring. And that goes against what I stand for. So
No, absolutely. Relationships is the key to this entire business. I'm a firm believer in that. So, all right. So you have a few realtors. I know one that you work deeply with, but where do any other of your referrals come from?
It's 100% realtors and client referrals. I get a lot of, just because of the way I engage with people, I get a lot of organic, just return business. I don't have to work that hard to keep up with people, which is nice. Um, and so that's nice. People refer their family, their coworkers. So that's a big part of it. I'm a part of Vetted VA as well. I didn't, obviously join that for leads. I mean, obviously that's part of just trying to help out veterans and donating some of our time. And yeah, we do get some leads back from that. So I have been getting more involved in the veteran community and getting some referrals that way as well, which has been great. So
Okay, so yeah, so you're getting your referrals strictly from relationships, which I think
yeah.
is personally the way to do business.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best way to do business, especially with what we're dealing with some of these mega lenders and stuff with that. So you're building trust with your clients. So how do you stay on top of this? Do you track them? Do you do something special for them? Because referrals is a tricky thing. There's a science to it, but then there's also a feel for it.
Yeah, I'm just like my golf game. I'm more of a feel person than a mechanical person, and I've looked at CRMs and I've tinkered with some of that, but at the end of the day, I just kind of do it manually, if that makes sense. Just kind
Yeah.
of, I have a spreadsheet. I know, just kind of going back through my list, and um, I was working with a coach actually for a little while, and he um, basically developed a kind of a method of when you have your pipeline of deals, and then every time you close a deal, you just change the year on the deal, and then it kicks it back to the bottom. So basically a year later, you're coming up on all these people that you closed a year ago, and you have a chance to kind of review, reach out, send a birthday card. I try to send thank you cards and send little notes and do things for people that just had a baby or had a new life event. I'm Facebook friends with a lot of people that I worked with. So and a lot of them know that they can just text me too. So I get texts all the time from clients where it's just and that's how I know I'm doing something right, because I don't get like cold business emails from past clients. It's, hey Casey, what are you doing? Yeah, blah blah. I need to do this. What do you think about this? Should I refi? Should I do this? What do you, so
No, those are the best way to do it. Yeah. I uh I'm with you on that one. I do have probably a little bit more method on mine. It sounds like
yeah.
maybe, and
Well,
I can say that to you because I've known you for a while. But at the same time, no, I mean you do have to have some sort of balance between like the transaction itself and then creating relationships. So how do you figure that out? I mean, do you spend half your day on your transactions, like your actual pipeline, or do you spend? I mean, you got to have some sort of method there, don't you?
uh, A little bit, yeah. Like I said, I'm very like kind of organic person, and a lot of this stuff I'm still sort of figuring out because for a while I was sort of building a business around myself, but then I actually just took on my first LO and have been mentoring him for he just got licensed just about a month ago, so have been mentoring him. Um, so I do plan to add more of those tools in. To incorporate into the business as far as keeping in touch and tracking people. But for now, it's just pretty much working off of a spreadsheet and kind of just on a day-to-day basis, just reviewing, you know, who's kind of coming up on a refi, reviewing their closing disclosure, things like that, or maybe just reaching out and sending out a few emails and saying, hey, what's going on? What's going on in your life? How are things going? That kind of thing. So nothing automated right now, which I know sounds crazy, but also my volume is not crazy either. I've had a lot of distractions, I would say, in the past year. So um, I sort of been chilling, I guess. I know a lot of people have just been pedal to the metal, make your money, which I make a comfortable living, but I also don't you know work 12 hours a day because with COVID and with the fact that after we moved across the country, I had to develop, basically some business so I could apply for a, self-employed mortgage, which finally we were able to do. And our house will be, done building in the next couple of months here. And then we had a second kid, a few months ago. So, like Gary,
Congrats
Gary
on that.
Vee, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I kind of take Gary Vee's advice there, where he says, it's okay to take your foot off the gas, at some points in your life, and make sure you have balance. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. So, I guess I've been kind of enjoying life a little bit and just, trying to save money, and then, as I grow my team and continue to kind of develop things and continue to, I want to try to mentor like 3 people this year,
Hmm.
and then I think that's where it's kind of going to get to that, where next year I'm going to add an LOA, start adding more systems in, and start building it out because I want them to have, I want my staff to have those tools and to have those things to succeed. And the other thing that's nice too that helps make us more memorable is my wife has her own processing company, so she processes my loans for me, and that also helps with kind of that client relationship of like, oh, that's cool. Like your wife, you work with your wife, and she helps you out in your loans and stuff like that. So that's another, I think, draw for clients, and why they enjoy working with us. So
That's huge right there. Yeah, I mean that's a big sell right there for retention purposes and for relationship purposes. Just hey, you got a husband and wife here, and they're working their tails off to get you your dream home. I think that's awesome.
yeah, it's been good.
All right, so you're a big relationship guy, philosophy guy. I love all this stuff. Everything you've said is pretty good. I got to do a little bit more reading on that stuff. But at the same time, so you create these relationships with clients, right? And which is absolutely fine. But then what happens now if they don't trust you? Something goes sideways with what you didn't say. How do you ease their tension? How do you go about handling that?
Like if there's a problem within a
Yeah.
loan or something like that.
Yep.
I think that just goes back to having poise, having patience. I think a lot of the things I've gone through have kind of hardened me mentally a little bit. I guess if that I don't know if that's really the right word to say, um, but like I'm a rock. Like I don't get phased at all, and I don't really put a lot of emotion into business, really, which is kind of contradictory, I guess, because obviously you want to build the relationships, and so I'm not a cold person per se when I'm like talking to people, but at the same time, I am very like calculated when I listen to them and understand, what the goals are. And so that all begins with setting the right expectations. So the more you listen to people and understand where they're coming from, what their concerns are, what stresses them out, is it a person that's very meticulous about the numbers, or is it someone who's like, Casey, you're the man, you got it, I trust you, they sign everything without looking, um, So setting the right expectations and reacting um, in the right way to make sure like that those people are content in how they think is like a big part of it. So if something happens where maybe taxes weren't calculated right, and when they add prorations or when they add the summer cushion or something like that, maybe it amps up their closing cost. For the first year, I would say I was terrible at calculating taxes. So that's something I ran into a fair amount. Um, but like again, it's one of the things I always do if something comes up is obviously I'm always the first to know. The client doesn't know until I tell them. Um, so having a solution prepared before you talk to those people, and also having backup plans when you go into it in the first place. Um, Again, to make sure their expectations are set is huge. So it's very it's not as hard to make those tough calls and to say like, hey, listen, this is what your closing costs are now, or this is what the problem is, but hey, this is how we're going to solve it. We're going to do this. I'm going to work the numbers, and of course, not everything goes perfectly. It's obviously the mortgage industry. You have some people that are, probably, they're happy, but maybe not going to give you that 5-star glowing review, but it is what it is and you learn from it. And that's the most important thing is take it to the next one and don't make the same mistake again, so.
Yeah, I mean, you showed your worth right there. I did a podcast, I think it was season one. Oh, it had to have been season one. And one of the things JP and our old host, talked about, which was, once I know there's a problem or an issue, I make sure that I know why, the answer and everything, make sure I have all the facts. And the first thing I do is I call them right away. I know some people, and they'll wait till the next day. That may be fine, or they just keep putting it off as long as they can. And the
Yeah.
term came up of "eat the frog." I think that's what it was. JP knows better than I do because I had no idea what the
Yeah.
hell he was talking about. But it's true. Just get it out. The clients will appreciate it more. They don't want to feel
Oh
taken
yeah.
advantage of. Just get it out
100%.
there and just spread it. So no, that's perfect. All right, so we're gonna kind of wrap this up here with kind of how we finalize every single one of these podcasts, which I've been loving doing. It's been great. So you have the audience. Let's just say you're at Fuse because I know you're going to be at Fuse, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to be at Fuse. You have the audience for a couple minutes here. You want to give them some piece of advice, something to take away. What is it? What's the advice you want to give to the community?
Um, hmm. Yeah. See, I already tossed out my golden circle of things. So that was no, can't regurgitate that.
That was the
No,
home run
I
right
would just
there.
I would just say like honestly, life is short and enjoy it. I don't think brokers have too hard of a time with that, but I think a lot of people forget that we have uh, really amazing lives, to be honest. Like to be able to um, you know make the amount of money that we do, and have the freedom that we do to travel, to work from anywhere. So I mean that's my thing. I I always comment on the fact that every time I see or every time I meet someone who's 80, 90, 100 years old, they always say the same thing, and they're always like the nicest, like happiest people. They always are just so positive and just happy to be alive. And I always comment and like, it's like, it seems like those people, like it's that happiness and that positivity that gives them that long life. And so I always kind of keep that tucked in my back pocket, I guess. And it's something I always think about. Just quick story. I remember working at Verizon one time, and this 95-year-old couple was in, old little Polish couple. They're so sweet. And she's driving like a Focus, like ZR5 or whatever it was at the time, like this fast little Ford Focus. And she's like, my bubbies wanted to get a Mustang, but my bubbies only let me have the Ford Focus because I like to go fast. It's like this 95-year-old lady, and I think about that story all the time, and it's just like, man, like life is so short. Just enjoy it, and um, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
No,
So
that's great. No, and then I will translate that for when you tell me that. I'm going to translate what's in my head, which is you're right. We're in a great industry. We have great lending and vending partners. We they make it easier for us all the time. What I think sometimes what a lot of this community does, and I think we're definitely getting better at it, is we forget about the 95%, 98% things that went right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then we're still focused, and this is just kind of somewhat society in itself. We're so focused on that 2% that went wrong. And I always sit back and look at it and go, wow, my kid has a game at 4 o'clock. I can go. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Unless I'm doing a podcast with you, then I'll skip my kid's game. But no, I agree with that. Just kind of know what's going on, enjoy it, because we are in a great industry.
yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
just, I'm just like the little guy that's happy to be here. It's like, oh, something I wanted to mention, um, is when I never get to tell this story, but I'm glad I have an opportunity to. Uh, when I first came into the mortgage industry, like one of the first groups I joined was Mortgage Loan Originator Network. Now people have feelings about that group, and I'm no longer in it. But one of the first people I ever interacted with in that group was Todd Bitter.
Hmm.
And I literally remember calling my wife over to the computer and going, like, babe, look at this guy. Look at this guy. He's talking about like doing so many loans a year, like not wearing pants. I was like, this is the guy. This is the guy right here that I want to be like. And fast forward like a few years later, Todd and I are friends and we hang out at Fuse and stuff. So it's been cool.
That's awesome. No
But
pants.
yeah,
I absolutely love it. Well, Casey, hey man, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this. I know we're all busy. It's summertime. It's rates are still great. So I just want to thank you for your time today, and I really
yeah,
enjoyed your
always,
insights.
yeah, always appreciate it.
All right. So, brokers, if you want to get caught up in all of our past podcast episodes, please head over to aimgroup.com/broker to broker. You can listen to all of the Broker podcast episodes on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, anywhere else where you can get podcasts. Do me a favor, subscribe to it. Please rate it. Please leave a review. Help us get the podcast out there that spreads the word that brokers are better. In case you should have worn your brokers are better shirt. I know you're trying to look nice for me today, but
Yeah, I know. I know.
I
I
always
got
see,
dressed
I
up for
always
you.
see you in it.
It's because I care.
I love it. I love it. Well, once again, thanks for your time, and everyone, we'll see you on the next episode.